Alright, we're shaking class. The goal for you guys, for you to be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive, negative decimals. Alright, so what you want to remember is that when you're adding and subtracting decimals, that's what you want to do. When you're adding and subtracting them, circle each number and the sign to the left. Alright, just like when you add and subtract integers, when you add and subtract fractions. If the signs are different though, alright, this is what you want to remember. Because we're dealing with decimals, so it's going to be a little bit harder to think about these in terms of money. Alright, how much you owe, how much you have. You're going to have to do a lot of counting, and I don't want you to take that long. So, if the signs are different, you're going to subtract the numbers. The answer is going to have the same sign as the higher number that you started off with. Okay? If the signs are the same, you're going to add those numbers together, and the answer is going to have the same sign as those numbers you added together. Alright, and I'm going to show you what that means, what that's going to look like. So, get this out of the way. First, some examples. Alright, negative 5.61 plus 2.88. Alright, I'm going to circle each number and the sign to the left. So I've got 5.61 in that negative, and I've got 2.88 in that positive. Okay. So it turns out signs are different. Different signs, find the difference. Alright, you can use that little trick to help you remember too. Different signs, difference. Different signs, you find the difference, so you're going to subtract. So I'm going to take 5.61 minus 2.88. Alright, so when I do that, I'm going to add a 1 to that one to make that 11. I had to borrow from the 6 and make that a 5. 11 minus 8 is 3. I couldn't do 5 minus 8, so I had to add a 1 to that 5 to make it 15. And since I added a 1 to that 5, that means I had to borrow from that 5, and so I have to make that a 4. 15 minus 8 is 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. So, we get 2.73. But since we subtracted, we want to look back at our problem. Alright? The higher number, that's the sign you want to use. Alright, the higher number here was 5.61. So, since that's the higher number and it was negative, our answer is negative. Okay, the reason I'm saying higher number is because when you think of 5.61, you think of that as a higher number than 2.88. Alright, I'm not talking about value. Alright, that means something different. If I ask you what has a greater value, negative 10 or negative 2, you should say negative 2 because it's further to the right down the number line. But I'm not talking about value right now. I'm talking about just the higher number. 5.61 is a higher number than 2.88. And since it's negative, our answer is negative. Okay? Number 2. Again, circle the number and the sign to the left. So I've got 4.39 and that negative sign. And I've got 3.26. Oh, and that's a negative sign. So, that rule I said in the last slide, if they have the same sign, you want to add them together. Alright? You owe $4.39 and you owe $3.26. So you want to combine them like this. 4.39 plus 3.26. Alright? Same sign, you're going to add. So, same sign, sum. Different sign, difference. Alright, you can use that to help you remember. So, 4.39 plus 3.26. Alright, when I do that, 9 plus 6 is 15. 5, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 6. And then 4 plus 3 is 7. So, 7.65. And, since I added these numbers together, alright, whatever sign both numbers had, that's the sign my answer is going to have. So, since both the numbers we combined were negative, our answer is going to be negative. Alright? Number 3. 1.93 minus 6.55. So now we're doing subtraction. Circle the number and the sign to the left. Well, there is none, so it's just positive. Then I'm going to circle 6.55 and the sign to the left. Alright, different signs. I want to find the difference. 6.55 minus 1.93. Alright, so 5 minus 3 is 2. I can't do 5 minus 9 here. So I need to borrow 1 from the 6. Put that 1 there. Since I borrowed from the 6, I'm going to turn that 6 into a 5. So now I can do 15 minus 9, which is 6. 5 minus 1, which is 4. And look back, class. Alright, when you find the difference, our answer is going to have the same sign as the higher number. Well, the higher number here is 6.55. And since it's negative, our answer is negative. Negative 4.62. Okay, number 4. I've got negative 7.10 minus 5.98. So I'm going to circle the number on the side of the left, and then this number on the side of the left. Same sign, find the sum. Same sign, sum. We're going to add these numbers together. 7.10 and 5.98. So I'm going to add them. 0 plus 8 is 9. Or sorry, 0 plus 8 is 8. 1 plus 9 is 10. So bring the 0 down, carry the 1. 1 plus 7 plus 5 is 13. And now look back. You combine those two numbers. They're both negative. Answer's negative. Okay? Think back to that rule. Same sign, find the sum, keep that sign. Alright, you owe $7.10. You owe $5.98. Total then, when you add them together, you owe $13.08. Alright? This goes back to the very first week of school class, the very first things we learned. Adding, subtracting integers. Negatives are the money you owe. Positives, the money you got. Okay. Now, 5 and 6. I want you to give these a shot. Pause the video. I'll be right back to work them out. Alright, so first, circle the numbers and the signs to the left. So this is positive 8.47, and this is negative 5.75. Alright, so different signs, I want to find the difference. So, different signs, find the difference. Let's do 8.47 minus 5.75. Okay. 7 minus 5 is 2. Oh, I can't do 4 minus 7. So that means I need to borrow 1 from this next number over. This becomes a 7. We can bring that 1 over. So now this is 14 minus 7, which is 7. Bring that decimal down. Notice, class, when I add and subtract decimals, remember, always want to have that decimal lined up with the other one. Okay? And then 7 minus 5 is 2. Alright, now let's look back. We found the difference of these two. So that means my answer is going to have the same sign as the higher number. Well, the higher number here is 8.47. So since this was positive, answer is positive. $2.72. I've got $8.47. I owe $5.75. You're going to pay that $5.75 you owe. After you do that, you're only going to have $2.72 left. Alright, and number 6. Circle the number on the side to the left. Circle this number on the side to the left. Alright. Same sign. Sum. We have to add these together, right? Because the sum means you're going to add the numbers. So, I'm going to add 2.91 and 6.16. So let's do 2.91, 6.16, and we're going to find the sum. Well, 1 plus 6 is 7. 9 plus 1 is 10. So I'm going to bring the 0 down, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 6 is 9. And then bring that decimal, same spot. 9.07. Alright, and then since we had the same sign, our answer is going to have the same sign as these numbers. Well, since both of them are negative, our answer is negative. Negative 9.07. You owe $2.91 and you owe $6.16. So you owe that much to, let's say, your dad, and then you owe that much, let's say you owe that much to your mom. Total, you owe $9.07. Okay? So that's adding and subtracting decimals. Now, multiplying and dividing. And like I've been saying all year, class, usually multiplying and dividing is easier than adding and subtracting. Decimals, it might not be. Alright, but again, that's really your opinion. So, what you want to remember when you're multiplying and dividing decimals, remember the rules we learned when multiplying and dividing integers. Alright, that's all. Same rules apply, and you guys have already learned how to multiply and divide you've already learned how to multiply and divide decimals before. Okay, now they're just positive and negative. So you want to remember this grid. Alright, when you multiply two positive numbers together, positive times a positive is a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. And then if you have a negative times a positive, you get a negative. Negative times a positive, you get a negative. Alright, so you can still use that grid. That's the great thing about this class. Alright, so let's look at an example over here. Number 1, 4.16 times 5.92. Alright, so ignore the signs. Don't even worry about the signs right now. Just worry about multiplying those two numbers together, 4.16 and 5.92. So, I multiply this out, right? 2 times 6 is 12. Bring the 2 down, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. Alright, now I'm moving to the next place over, so I need to bring a 0 down. 9 times 6 is 54. Carry the 5. 9 times 1 is 9, plus that 5 is 14. Bring the 4 down, carry the 1. 9 times 4 is 36, plus that 1 would be 37. And now we're moving on to the last place, so we have to carry 2 zeros down. 5 times 6 is 30. 0, carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus that 3 is 8. And then 5 times 4 is 20. Then when you add them all up, you get 24.6272. And remember, class, when you're multiplying decimals, the number of decimal places in the problem, that determines how many decimal places there are on the answer. Look, since there are 1, 2, 3, 4 total decimal places, right here from the end of our answer, we need to count over 4 decimal places to figure out where our decimal goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Decimal right there between the 4 and the 6. So our answer, negative 24.6272. Number 2, negative 15.477 divided by negative 6.7. Alright, so when I set this up, 6.7 is on the outside, 15.477 is on the inside. But you never want to have a number with a decimal outside there. Okay, so we want to move that decimal place over 1. Since I'm moving this decimal place over 1, I want to move this decimal place over 1. Alright, just like with, changing the denominator of fractions, just like solving equations. Whatever you do to the top, you got to do to the bottom. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Well, since you move this decimal place over 1, you have to move this decimal place over 1. So this problem is going to become 154.77 divided by 67. Now you can figure this out. Well, 67 doesn't go into 1, doesn't go into 15, but it will go into 154 2 times. Alright, 2 times 67 is 134. When you subtract, you get 20. Bring the 7 down. 67 goes into 207 3 times. 3 times 67 is 201. Then when you do 207 minus 201, you get 6. Bring that last 7 down. 67 goes into 67 1 time. There's the 1. And when you subtract those, you get 0 for your remainder. So your answer would be 2.31. And now if you want to figure out whether it's positive or negative, look back. This was a negative divided by a negative. So if you look at your chart, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So our answer would be positive 2.31. Now for a couple of problems I want you to try to work out. Alright, give these 3 problems a shot. See how well you do. Pause the video and I'll be right back to see how well we did. Alright. Okay, so number 1. We got negative 4.61 times negative 3.15. Well, ignore the negatives for right now. Let's just multiply those numbers together. So, I've got 4.61. And actually, you know what? I'm going to move this more towards the center of my problem. 4.61 times 3.15. And we're multiplying. Alright, so let's multiply this out. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. So 0 down. This is a 3. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus that 3 is 23. Alright, now next place, so I need to bring a 0 down. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay. Last step, move on to this place. So now instead of 1, 0, I need 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 6 is 18, so this is going to be an 8. Bring the 1 up. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus that 1 is 13. Now I need to add all these together. Okay. So, let's fix that. Let's fix that 0. 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 1 plus 0 is 1. 3 plus 6 plus 3 is going to be 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 4 is 7. Plus 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. And then bring that 1 down. So now I've got 145, 215. I don't know how many decimal places are in the answer. So let's go back. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places in the problem. So there are 4 decimal places in our answer. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our decimal. And since it was a negative times a negative, our answer is positive. So 14.5215. That's it. Alright, number 2. Alright, let's solve this. We've got to figure out how many times 4.29 goes into 39.039. Alright, but I can't have a decimal out here. Okay, you can't. Can't do it. So what I want to do is I want to move the decimal to the end of the number. So I have to go over 1, 2 spaces to do that. So over here, I want to go over 1, 2 spaces to do that. So now this problem is going to become 429 going into 3903.9. Alright, because the decimal would have been put over here now after we move it. So, now let's figure this out. 429, well, it doesn't go into 3, it doesn't go into 39, it doesn't even go into 390. So, let's see how many times 429 goes into 3,903. Well, let's check. 429. I'm going to say maybe it goes in, let's try 9 times. Let's just check. So, if I multiply 429 times 9, 3,871. Yeah, that's it. So it goes in 9 times. So, this is going to be a 9. And when we do 429 times 9, we get 3871. I'm going to bring that down. I subtract. When I subtract, I'm going to get, let's see, well, 3,903 minus 3,871. That's going to give us, what, 32? Bring the 9 down. And then, well, let's see here, class. I might have made a mistake. Because that's supposed to go in one time. There should be 429. Let me double check this. I wrote it all right. Alright, 81, carry the 8. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus, I know where I made my mistake. See, this is why you show your work. Because then you can go back and figure out what you did wrong. 9 times 9 is 81. Bring the 8 over. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 8 is 26. Bring the 2 up. 9 times 4 is 36, 38. This should be 3,861. So let's get rid of that. Alright. Let me erase this arrow. Now when you subtract, alright, this is why I felt I messed up. You should get 42 when you subtract these numbers. Bring the 9 down. 429 goes into 429 one time. 429 times 1 is 429. You subtract, you have nothing left. And then you bring that decimal up the same number of spaces. Our answer, 9.1. But we got to see if it's positive or negative. Well, we did a negative divided by a positive, so that means our answer is going to be negative 9.1. That's it. Now I'm going to erase this work over here. Alright. And last one, number 3. Alright, we have to do 22.68 divided by 2.7. So, first I'm going to write 2.7 goes into 22.68. Well, can't have a decimal out there, so I need to move it over one decimal place, which means I move this one over one decimal place. Alright, so now this problem is going to become 27 going into 226. That's where my new decimal is going to be 0.8. Alright, now I can start to solve. Well, let's see. 27 doesn't go into 2, doesn't go into 22, but it will go into 226. And I think it'll go in 8 times. So, let's check. 27 times 8. Yep. 27 times 8 is 216. So, this is going to give me 216. I'm going to erase this work up here now. Alright. When you subtract 226 minus 216, you get 10. Bring that 8 down. 27 goes into 108. It's going to go in 4 times. And 4 times 27 is 108. Subtract, you get nothing. Bring the decimal place up. 8.4 is our answer, but we gotta check and make sure if it's positive or negative. Negative divided by a negative. That's going to be a positive answer. So, that's our answer. 8.4. Alright. The hardest thing about this, guys, is probably going through all the work. Alright, the easiest part, remembering your rules from multiplying and dividing integers. Negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a negative, that's going to be a negative. And then adding and subtracting. I know I just showed you a different method, but you've been using a method similar to that, or you've been thinking in that same way since the beginning of the year, using integers, using positive and negative fractions. Alright, so it's not that much different. Okay? Just remember, if you got the same sign, your answer is going to have that sign. If you got a different sign, find the difference and then the higher number, that's the sign you're going to use. Okay? So, hope you guys do well. We'll spend a couple of days on this and move on to the next thing. Hope you guys are having a great night. I'll see you later.